Jonathan Watt with the Tara Group International. We hope you're enjoying our content, and if you are, please press the like button and subscribe to our channel. We are doing a series again on early church history and are going to look today at what is the legacy of Eastern Christianity, looking at the Church of the East and also Christianity in China, particularly focusing on the 7th through the 9th centuries. Long before Western missionaries ever reached Asia, Christianity had already made its way deep into the heart of China, carried not by Europeans, but by Syriac-speaking Christians of the Middle East, in other words, the Church of the East. And between the 7th and 9th century, these missionaries established vibrant Christian communities along the ancient Silk Road and at the Tang imperial capital in Chang'an, what's known today as Xi'an. Their presence in China is most vividly commemorated by the Nestorian Stele, which is a chiseled and carved stone that dates back to 781 AD. It's a remarkable inscription that preserves the story of early Christian encounter with Chinese civilization. It was a missionary spirit eastward. The Church of the East has sometimes been called the Nestorian Church, at least in later Western writing. And it was one of the great Christian bodies of late antiquity. By the early 7th century, it had become a truly missionary church, spreading beyond its own heartlands into Mesopotamia, into Persia, Central Asia, and India. And it was in this context that the first recorded Christian mission to China was ever launched. The year is AD 635, and a missionary named Alopen, known in Chinese by a similar sounding Aluoben, arrived in Chang'an, the dazzling capital of the Tang Dynasty, bearing Christian scriptures and sacred books. And according to the Xi'an Stele, or Stele, Emperor Taizong of Tang welcomed Alopen and his companions, extending official tolerance to their teaching and allowing them to translate their texts into Chinese to be placed with the imperial library. So this early encounter is remarkable for what it reveals about religious openness, at least in early medieval China. Tang rulers, especially Taizong, invited scholars and spiritual teachers from afar, interestingly embracing Buddhist, Zoroastrian, Jewish, and Christian teachings, along with their own indigenous traditions. And in such an ecosystem of ideas, the Church of the East was able to take some root without the antagonism or colonial baggage that would characterize much later traditions based in Europe. Now, the Jingjiao Stele is a monument of faith community. It's an enduring testimony to this early Christian presence in the Nestorian Stele, also known as the Xi'an Stele, or the Stele to the propagation in China of the Jingjiao, or luminous religion. Erected in 781, as we said, the monument stands nearly 9 feet tall. It's inscribed in both Chinese and Syriac text. It's a bilingual witness to a faith that lived in conversation with Chinese culture for over a century. Now, the inscription details how Christianity arrived under Alopen's mission and acknowledges the patronage and the official recognition granted by the Tang court. It lists bishops, archdeacons, and monks who served the Christian communities in Chang'an, Luoyang, and other centers, and demonstrating that Christianity in China had developed a well-organized ecclesiastical presence by the late 8th century. What makes the Stele especially compelling is not just its length, but its tone and its language. So while firmly rooted in Christian theology, including references to the triune God and the incarnation, the Stele expresses these ideas using phrasing and concepts that were intelligible to literate Chinese audiences, demonstrating early efforts at intercultural translation of the Christian message into the symbolic and philosophical world of China. So how did it grow and flourish and then might meet some challenges? Well, for more than 150 years, the Church of the East in China, known locally as the Jingjiao or the Luminous Religion, maintained a foothold in the cultural and urban life of the Tang Empire. Monasteries were built, scriptures were translated, believers were drawn from local populations. Inscriptions and archaeological finds confirm that there were communities not only in the imperial capitals, but even as far as Sichuan province, where Syriac Christians had left a trace of their presence. Yet this flourishing was shaped by the complex religious politics of Tang-era China. The dynasty's openness ebbed and flowed with the fortunes of its rulers. And in the mid-9th century, Emperor Wuzong's reign saw a brutal suppression of all foreign religions, including Buddhism, Zoroastrianism, and Christianity. Churches were closed, scriptures destroyed, Christian communities were largely dismantled. A Syrian monk writing not long after this time found many Christian sites abandoned and frankly in ruins. So by the time China entered the era of the fragmentation after the Tang collapse in the early 10th century, Christianity has faded as a visible institution, at least in most parts of the country. But the legacy of those centuries, the presence of sacred books and translated terms, and a multilingual Christian community remained as an early chapter in the story of global Christianity. So there's this legacy along the Silk Road left for us. It's a tale of the Church of the East in China, not merely an isolated historical curiosity. It speaks to one of the earliest instances of Christianity as a global faith, not carried by conquest or colonial power, but by cross-cultural dialogue and exchange along the Silk Road's network of trade and language and ideas. So in scholarly terms, the phenomenon challenges simplistic narratives about Christianity's eastward spread. It reveals a Christianity that's engaged with Buddhist and Taoist and Confucian worldviews, and often adapting its language and theology without losing its core confession. So for historians, theologians, and seekers alike, this early encounter between East and West widens our understanding of how religious traditions interact and transform and endure. Now, if you're curious to explore this fascinating topic more deeply, one engaging resource is Jingjiao, the Church of the East in China and Central Asia, edited by Roman Malik. It's available on Amazon, and this comprehensive volume brings together research on the history and inscriptions and art and the spiritual life of early Christian communities in Asia, and offers a rich context for the luminous religion's presence in Tang China and beyond. So for reflection, Christianity before the West, the story of the Church of the East in China, reminds us that Christianity's history is worldwide, it's diverse, it's ancient. And long before the voyages of European missionaries, Christians from Mesopotamia were living, worshiping, and translating sacred texts in the heart of imperial China. And their legacy invites us to broaden our perspective on mission and intercultural engagement and the ways faith adapts over time and space. So whether you're interested in church history or interreligious dialogue of some kind or the shared heritage of East and West, this early chapter of Christianity invites on reflection that the message of Jesus was proclaimed not only in Rome and Jerusalem, but also along the Silk Roads and into the palaces of Chang'an. Note from our Tara Group International, if this exploration of early Christian history in China resonates with you, we offer opportunities to engage these themes with individuals, churches, and organizations, and from, program development, pastoral coaching, to keynote presentations and retreat leadership, Tara Group partners with communities seeking thoughtful, historically grounded, and spiritually enriching approaches to faith formation and cross-cultural